All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Lasting Learning Podcast. Today is an exciting day because I have a guest on who I have been trying to get on here for a little while, but she's just so stinking popular. Everybody is snatching her up and wanting to talk to her. So I was able to get her to be on the show right now because, well, to be honest, she's in self-quarantine like the rest of us, and she has nowhere to go, and she could not pull out any more excuses. She has to talk to me online today because we're all talking to everybody on Zoom, so I just kind of like slipped in the back door here. So Britney, whatever it took, I appreciate you being here today. Britney Wolf, thanks for joining us on the show.
Well, I appreciate you having me. I am very excited to be a part of this. I would have done it whether or not I had nowhere else to go, just so you know.
Okay, fair enough.
It just opens up my schedule quite a bit more. And sadly enough, too, Friday nights are generally my most open nights.
Well, I don't feel nearly as bad anymore because we were originally supposed to do this earlier in the week, and you said, "Can we do Friday?" I was like, "Yeah, why?" Even if we weren't in social quarantine, yep, Friday nights work for me.
Yeah, I'm starting to learn that quarantine is really not that much different than my usual life.
Right.
Oh.
It's just allowing everybody else to have an insight into what we experience daily.
Right.
So, Britney, can you do me a favor and just introduce yourself to the world? I know a lot of people have seen you and heard you, especially recently. Like I said, you're popping up everywhere right now. You're the it girl, but a couple people might not have heard you somewhere else. Can you just talk to us about who you are and explore your journey a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. I don't know if I'm quite the it girl, but I would take the title. My name's Britney Wolf. As you said, I'm just turned 30 last November. My main story that I try to get out, and the main story that everybody knows me for, is Tourette's syndrome. For anybody that sees a video on this, you'll see me like make faces, move my shoulder around, move my neck and my jaw around. Those are called tics. A lot of people don't know that Tourette's syndrome is a lot more than swearing. A lot of people just think it's people running around swearing, yelling things, and getting away with saying whatever they want. I've lived with that kind of stigma around it my whole life. Although it is real, only 10% of people have that. And the people that do have it, they don't get away with anything. Most people don't believe them that they have it. And a lot of people just have this misconception about what Tourette's syndrome is. And so from a very young age, I was very, I wanted people to know what I had so they wouldn't make fun of me or anything like that. It just developed into this passion for spreading awareness and letting people know that, one, they're not alone, and two, I wanted to people know what I actually had. Like, you get to a point where it gets tiring kind of to explain yourself all the time, and I'm trying to get the world to a place where so many people with Tourette's syndrome don't constantly have to do that.
Wow. It's powerful on so many levels. And let me preface this by saying, I want to make sure that our entire conversation is not about Tourette's syndrome, because you are so much more than that. Okay. But I know that's where you start, because that is something that a lot of people have questions about. So sometimes if we just get that out of the way, we can shift. So are you okay with us just talking about that at the front end here, and then we'll 100%. Go into who Britney really is?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So one of the things that fascinates me is you front loaded it and you say most people know me for this.
Yes.
At what point in your life did you get to that point where you said, all right, I'm just going to come out and just start talking about this publicly? And I hate to say kind of make it your identity, but make this your talking point, because we all have things that we deal with, but most of us, myself especially included in this, do our best to cover it and hide it and dismiss it and ignore it, sweep things under the rug. But you're out here like magnifying it so that, I mean, it's what we're focused on right now. Right. When did you say, I'm going to do that?
Well, I've always been open about it ever since I was a little girl. My parents have never, I think I contribute a lot to my parents, because they never made it seem like I was weird for anything that I did. So I just grew up thinking the same way. I'm like, this is just what I do. So take it or leave it. You have the problem if you don't like it. I decided really more than a few years ago, I guess. I've always talked about it, but just I think 4 years ago, I started making my YouTube videos about it. I got tired of only spreading it so far, and I wanted to tell my story more. I wanted to, I tried to make those videos before. I've gotten so close so many times. I probably started a video and stopped it in the middle for a year before I decided, no, I just want to show it, because the internet can be a powerful place, but it can also be a scary place, because so many people are they think they're a lot stronger behind a keyboard and behind a computer screen, and there's a lot of mean people out there. But I just figured like it's not worth it. Like I can blow past a mean comment every once in a while. Yeah, it'll sting a little bit still, but so many people are hurting and so many people are fighting with this disorder. Like by the amount of people that have reached out to me since I've done those videos, it just tells me like I made the right choice. Sometimes I don't think I'm the right face or of the right kind of face for this disorder because so many people have it so much worse than I do. But some of those people are too afraid to speak out because of that. And so I just want to be able to do that for them if they're too afraid. And so 4 years ago, I made the video. I was up by myself. My husband was already passed out with our dog. And I just sat there staring at the computer screen. I'm like, all right, I just need to do this. I'm going to do it. And then I'm going to fall asleep. And then I'll see what happens in the morning. And I ended up getting way more love and support than I ever expected from it.
I love that story in so many ways. Like so many ways. And I'm going to make this about me because that's what I do best. But,
Go for it.
I said that we all have things that we deal with, and oftentimes we sweep them under the rug. And I have been completely guilty of that my entire life. Got to the point where last year I finally just opened up and said, yeah, I'm battling some stuff. And for me, it was more depression, anxiety, things like that. But I was so scared to admit that I was on medication, that I was seeking help and going to a counselor and all of those things, because I was so afraid of what other people were going to think.
Right.
And what helped me through it is the people that came to me and said, we already knew it. You weren't hiding anything. I mean, we can see it.
Yeah.
The fact that you now own it means that we can now talk to you about it.
Right.
And I appreciate this with you, because I mean, with you, Tourette's is something that's physical and people can see it. So whether you talk about it or not, you just opening it up and allowing that conversation to happen gives people that door. So no matter what they're struggling with, they can have that conversation with you. And
exactly.
I appreciate that so much. That's awesome.
I think it makes them more comfortable too, like around me. And I don't want to say that, I don't mean that in a bad way.
No, I know what you mean completely.
I think because they're okay with asking, like, are you okay? Or even asking questions about it. I always make them know, like, if you ever want to know anything, like, please don't hesitate to ask. Like, even if I'm doing something and you ask me if that was a tick, like, I'll tell you yes or no. But like,
so I got to ask, have you ever lied and just completely like shot someone in the bird and it's like, sorry, it's a tick? I mean,
I have not, but I would be lying if I said it hadn't crossed my mind.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So can you tell people what you do during the day? So what is the day job for Britney Wolf?
My day job, I actually work for Nestle in Solon, Ohio. It's an amazing company. I love working there. I've been there for about 1.5 years so far. So that's my day job. Everybody I work with knows about my Tourette's syndrome. I slowly let everybody in on that. It was easy last year because I was organizing a 5K for research, like funds for Tourette's syndrome.
Yeah.
I was inviting them all to it. So it was my easy like pathway in to be like, hey guys, this is what I have and this is why I'm doing this. And I told my manager one-on-one, because I just like to get that out there in case I have a bad day and have to excuse myself. But yeah, so I'm a claims analyst. It sounds kind of boring, but I actually really love my job. I do a lot of problem solving and validating, like when people short pay and all that kind of fun stuff.
Okay.
So that's generally what I do for 8 hours every day. So.
And then you also do videos, and your website is super robust. I mean, I don't want to call it a side hustle, but it is your side passion.
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. Well, first of all, I can't mention anything without my website without giving a shout out to my brother. My actual speaking website, my brother did the basis and most of that for me.
Oh,
He's
wow.
really good at that kind of stuff, and I struggle with it sometimes. So he really got the ball rolling for me. So my brother, Alex Jackson, he's very good at that kind of thing. So if anybody out there is looking for somebody to do something like that for them.
And it's legit. Go check it out. Britney Wolf Speaks is what it is, right? Did I get it right? Yeah. All right. Yeah, it is legit. So keep going. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Wanted to make sure I gave him a shout out for that. But yeah, my passion, I guess, outside of my day job is spreading awareness. I just recently got lucky enough to be brought in on the Speakers Network for the Teach Better team with, Ray and Jeff and all those amazing people. All of you guys, I know you're really deeply involved with everybody with that. It's just an amazing team. And so it's really opened the door for me to start speaking at teaching conferences and teaching or speaking hopefully soon too at businesses and stuff. It's really opening the realm for me to talk about Tourette's syndrome, because if I could if I could spend all day, every day, like that could be my day job, night job, whatever, teaching people about Tourette syndrome and opening that door for other people to feel more comfortable, especially kids in the classroom, then I'm doing something right. So I think I'm on my way, and that's really just
So,
what
so
that.
yeah, no, yeah. So you've set the stage here, and I wanted to put all of that stuff out in the open because this is where I was going with this. So I'm glad you made this segue perfectly. So you talk about Tourette's.
Mm-hmm.
You work as I think the fancy title was claims analyst. Did I get
Yeah.
that? Okay, through Nestle. But you are doing work with the Teach Better team.
Yes.
And some people hear all that and they're like, I don't see the connection. How does any of this have to do with teaching better?
Right.
Connect those dots for us.
Well, my biggest connection for that is really opening the door more, not only for students and teachers to know those students with Tourette syndrome or other disabilities in the classroom. I really just want to open them up to the empathy of a student that might be struggling with something that's really hard for them to notice. My takes aren't always as obvious as they are in this video. They are more because I'm talking about it, but sometimes when I'm talking also, they can get my mind so focused that they won't happen until like I walk out of the room.
Wow. Okay.
So when I was in classroom, when you grow up with Tourette syndrome, you kind of learn how to try and hide your tics a little bit. Like I'll tick with my hands under my desk, or I'll kick my feet on the floor, or when I'm moving my neck, it looks like I'm stretching, but I'm actually ticking. And so it can be a struggle while you're trying to deal with all that and hide it from not only your classmates, but from your teacher, but then also pay attention to everything the teacher's saying. Because I have a million things going in my mind when I'm taking really bad. Like, is the teacher going to believe me? Is the teacher going to point it out? Is another student going to point it out? Are they going to make fun of me? And now I'm down that rabbit hole and I missed 5 minutes of what the teacher just said. And me being the perfectionist that I always have been, I start panicking about that. Like, did I miss something that's going to be on a test? Did I miss this? Like, can I talk to the teacher about it? Am I comfortable? Is the teacher creating an environment for me to feel comfortable to talk to him or her about it? And that's where that connection comes in. Like, because not only Tourette syndrome, it can be connected to so many different things like OCD and anxiety, ADHD, all those things can come hand in hand with Tourette syndrome. I have anxiety issues and I have OCD, like I take in certain ways, but so many other students are suffering from things that can be very similar to make it hard to pay attention in the classroom. They don't necessarily need like special needs or anything along those lines or special education, but they're in those regular classrooms and they're fighting something that they just can't show necessarily, or it doesn't always show. It maybe shows as a student just acting out. It maybe shows as a student, maybe it seems like they're not paying attention. And I want to open that door for this teacher to get to know the student a little bit better, because it could seriously, in my opinion, take like 5 minutes to learn that one little thing about the student and open a whole world of respect between that student and teacher relationship.
Wow. That's powerful. So, I'm a Michigan guy. I live up here in Michigan. You're down in Ohio. So we already know you got a subpart education in Ohio. So we'll dismiss that. Aside from that, the obvious, what was it like for you in school with peers and teachers and all? I mean, I don't know if you can just paint this overall picture, or are there these moments of highs and lows?
Well, I will say I was pretty lucky with my school system. I think what helped me was being open about it at a young age. So I grew up with those kids. I came to the school I went to for like most of my life. I came to it in 4th grade. We moved from Warren, Ohio to Champion, Ohio, which really wasn't that much of a difference, but it was different schools.
Champion, Ohio. Do you understand how ironic that name is? Okay, sorry.
So I grew up with those kids from 4th grade to obviously senior year, and I was always very open about it. If I could do a report in front of the classroom, I did a report about Tourette syndrome. One, it was kind of I joke about this all the time, it was kind of my easy way out. I didn't have to do research for the paper. I just got to write about my life. Awesome. But it was an easy way for me to tell the teacher if they didn't already know in my class. And it was a way to explain to them what it was that I did. And so growing up, like a lot of those kids, like it was the same kids. And so even if I wasn't really friends with them, I was kind of more of a stick to my little friend group kind of person. I didn't really venture off a lot. But even those people that weren't friends with me, sometimes if I'd be taking really bad in the classroom, like those people would look over and ask if I was okay and if I needed anything. And those moments just meant a lot more to me than I think they ever realized. They probably don't even remember. Like the person I'm talking about probably doesn't even remember doing it. But so I was very lucky. And with my teachers, my mom and I, it would kind of be up to me if which teachers, or if I wanted all of my teachers to know. Like a lot of these decisions, my mom would like, obviously she would talk to me about it, but I think ultimately she wanted it to be my decision so I can take control of how I wanted people to perceive me. And I had a lot of really great teachers, and I had just a few instances where it's been really bad. I've had a teacher that told me, you know, he looked at me and told me to sit still, and I couldn't. And he created an environment to where he didn't even know I had Tourette's syndrome because I was too afraid to tell him.
Mm.
Even when he looked at me and told me to sit still, and actually he told me, yeah, he asked me, can you please sit still? With a very like, it brings me back to the moment every time I talk about it. The look on his face, like when he asked me, I just felt embarrassed and ashamed for the very first time in my life while having Tourette's syndrome. And I didn't have the guts or the courage to tell him, like, look, no, I can't. I have Tourette's syndrome, because I didn't think he would believe me, because he created that environment. And mind you, this was art class, like a class that I'm not an artist. So I didn't take art very like seriously. I went for the she's trying passing grade because I'm just not an artist. It's not in me. It's not drawing wise. Anyway, I've accepted it a long time ago. It's not an ability in my body. But he just made me feel so small. And I was so upset with, I'm so upset with myself now. This was in middle school and I'm 30 years old and I still think about it. My mom still gets angry about that moment. Like, cause I came home and I told her, obviously, and she got very angry. She's like, if he didn't believe you, I'd be in that school with your papers and everything else. And so I just kind of moved on from it. I never brought it up again. I just tried not to be like really close to him when he would show us to do things, so I wouldn't be ticking around him again. But I didn't let that stop me. I very easily could have. But then I had a teacher in my sophomore year. Shout out to Mr. Sheldon, Champion High School. He is awesome. He was one of my favorite teachers. We had journal writing prompts on Fridays every once in a while, and I love when I'm given a prompt and I could just write. Like, I love to write, and we could write about anything this one particular day. So I wrote about like the first day I remember ticking for the first time, and about my Tourette's syndrome, because it's my go-to. So he read that and he like had his little comments or whatever, but then he called my mom in for a parent-teacher conference. And my mom was very confused because I was pretty much an A-B student. I was a very good student, and she never got called for parent-teacher conferences for me. And she almost didn't even go. She's like, are you passing class? Is there something you're not telling me? And I'm like, no, this is my best class. This is my favorite class. I don't know why he wants you to talk or come in. So she went in anyways, and it was just to find out more about my Tourette's syndrome. It was just to find out like what he could do to make the classroom more comfortable for me, or what he needed to do, or if there was anything he needed to do for me. And that's a moment that like fills me with so much like just pure happiness. And my mom, again, she also still talks about that moment. Like, it meant so much to her as a mom that that's all he wanted to do. He just wanted to learn about me and figure out what he needed to do if the circumstances arose where I got really bad, or I was trying to hide too much or something like that. And it just, it meant so much to me and my mom both.
There's so much power in both of those stories. And I'm thinking back to a couple of moments that I can relate to, where I have completely messed up and completely dropped the ball. And you're helping me own this a little bit myself, through this reflective lens. You know, it's oftentimes the small moments that make the biggest difference.
Right.
And like even the moment with the teacher that said, can you sit still? I want to assume that this guy is not just the biggest beef on the planet.
Right.
Might be, but who knows? I'm going to assume that he was legitimately asking you to calm down and thinking you were going to be a distraction, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
But the fact that he wasn't willing to try to figure it out and have a private conversation with you and try to figure out the bigger story,
right,
like your other teacher was, is powerful to me. And it made me think about a story from, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. I was a principal of an inner city school down in Florida. And there was a teacher who was a sweet teacher. However, at times would make some erroneous decisions and say some things to kids that probably weren't necessarily the kindest and sweetest. And I remember one specific example where she called a student lazy. The student had his head down. He was an 8-year-old student. He was sleeping, and she called him lazy, told him to get up. He put his head back down again, and she called him lazy again. And it was this pattern of lazy sleep, lazy sleep. Long story short, I get involved as the principal because the parent has requested a parent-teacher conference. And as it comes out in the conference, this 8-year-old was tasked with staying up all night, taking care of a newborn baby because the mom had to work the night shift. And this 8-year-old was basically pulling 24-hour days, helping raise his baby brother while mom went out and doing the best that she could, working the only job she could. This 8-year-old boy was the farthest thing from lazy.
Yeah.
But that 8-year-old was never going to say anything to that teacher, because as soon as he felt like he got this label of being defiant or disobedient or insubordinate, it shut down.
Right.
I say that because you made a statement early on that you think that you were lucky to have this environment. And I'm going to say, I don't think you were lucky at all. The only thing that might be lucky is who your parents were, because it sounds to me like you had this amazing mom, for example, who taught you empowerment. Who taught you to speak for yourself on behalf of yourself. Yeah. And they helped you form these relationships with teachers and you had some amazing teachers that were put into your path that helped cultivate all of this. I really don't think there's luck involved in that. I think building any quality relationship is hard work, and you've had to build a lot of quality relationships to have people see the real Britney through all of this. So luck, no way. This is hard work that you deserve a lot of credit for. That's impressive.
I would definitely agree that my parents have a lot to do with it. They taught me from a very young age that I don't need to take anything from anybody.
Good for you.
I'm fine the way I am. Maybe sometimes I take it a little too literal when I stand up for myself sometimes, but no, my mom and dad were always amazing. My mom was there for like the crying, sitting on her lap, bad day. My dad's there to my dad will do anything at his own expense to make me laugh again or make anybody laugh that he loves. So, because he has a very hard time seeing me tick, so he will always try to be putting the smile back on my face. So they were a great tag team with it.
And you're married, right?
Yes, I am.
Do you mind if we talk about that a little bit? So what was that conversation like when you and your husband were first dating, and you had to explain this to him? I mean, is he must just be the most amazing person ever. Go ahead and say it.
Yeah, he absolutely is the most amazing person ever. I'm kind of obsessed with him still. I told him about my Tourette's syndrome the very first day we met.
Wow. Okay.
I kind of always used it as kind of like a gauge almost for guys that I dated. Not to say that a few bad ones haven't slipped through the cracks in the past. I want to see how they react with it. And for when I first met him, we just went to a local Perkins and we talked like all night long. And I knew that I was starting to really like him quick. And I just don't want to get in over my head and then realize later on, like, man, I really like you, but you're not going to be able to handle my Tourette's syndrome. And that's the biggest part of my body. And it's my biggest quote unquote downfall. I don't want to call it a downfall because I'm proud to have it, but it's my biggest struggle sometimes. And that's something that you need to be able to handle, and you need to be able to like accept that sometimes I'm not going to be able to sit still. Sometimes I'm going to be moving in public, and you're going to have to be there with me when it's happening. And it might be embarrassing sometimes and all that. But, he was very accepting of it right from the beginning. He was very interested. He asked questions that made me know that he truly wanted to know more about it. He was open enough to admit to me that he had a friend that they later found out did have it, and that sometimes like they would make jokes. And I thought that took a lot of guts for him to admit that to my face. So not in a bad way. Like my husband's, like I said,
no, I get it. He's real.
Yes. He's a very amazing person. He's patient and he's selfless. And I knew because of my Tourette's syndrome a few months in, and it might sound silly and dumb to people listening or watching, but after a conversation we had like a few months in, we had already like shared like I love yous and all that kind of stuff. I had him watch a movie. It's called Front of the Class. It's actually about a teacher that has Tourette's syndrome. It's a true story. Brad Cohen. He became a principal, and the like tagline is like becoming the teacher I never had. He had Tourette's syndrome, and it's a true story. It comes on Hallmark every once in a while. I had him watch it, and he told his family about it, so his family watched it too to kind of get an insight. I wanted him to see it from a different angle, and also kind of see how it could be for me. And and the movie makes me emotional. I'm very he's one of my inspirations, the guy from Brad Cohen from the movie and obviously real life. And I was talking to him about it afterwards. I'm like, I just need to know that this isn't going to be too much for you one day. I was like, it's not always going to be an easy night. There's going to be days where I'm crying. There's going to be days where I don't know what to do next because it just happens so much. And, he told me that he loved me more because of my Tourette's syndrome and who it made me become. And he would never love me in spite of it. And that was the moment I knew I was marrying him, 100%. Nobody's ever made me feel that way. That wasn't family that has to love me. So, and I knew from then he would always be amazing. And he has these subtle ways of being there for me without bringing a lot of attention to it if it doesn't need to be. When we're out in public or something, just putting his arm on my back, it just lets me know that he sees that it's happening, but he's right there. And he's just very patient with me because like I said, the anxiety and everything else comes with it. And he's not a very anxiety driven or worry type of person. I don't understand how his brain works like that, but he's very similar to me, but he's also very opposite in that aspect. But and I think it's because he's just so patient and he knows how to help me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. In that, you talked about, again, a couple of words that I want to fixate on. Mm-hmm. At one point you said that he could get embarrassed from time to time, but that this is also a part of you. Mm-hmm. I'm an advocate against labels of kids at any time. Right. People always live up to their labels, good or bad.
Right.
And I'm wondering, do you ever get embarrassed still? Do you get embarrassed? Or is this almost like a birthmark? It's just what you were born with and you're kind of it's just a part of me. It is what it is.
Most of the time it's just a part of me. It is what it is. But there are times where I get embarrassed, but more so I would say it's times where I'm nervous about if somebody's going to say something to me.
Okay.
One of my bigger tics in public is kicking my feet on the ground. Sometimes I come to a complete stop and I have to just kick my feet, and I have to do it on both feet because the OCD part of the tics, I have to even it out. I have to, or something in my brain, something bad's going to happen. And I just have to because my body has control and I don't. So I'm afraid sometimes if I come to a dead stop, if somebody's right behind me, or if it's a busy time of day in the store and I'm just afraid of what somebody might say. I haven't encountered that at a store. I've encountered it, people saying rude things on the internet, but I haven't had it actually said to me straight to my face, in a store setting or anything like that. And I guess that's kind of more what I'm nervous about because I don't know necessarily how I would react. I don't know if I would freeze up or take the opportunity because sometimes it's just not worth it. Depending on the person you're speaking to, for me, sometimes it's just not worth it for me to engage. But then other times I want to take that opportunity to be hey, look, no, this is actually what I have, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. So it's a bit of mixture of embarrassment and just nerves as well.
I got to tell you, you're changing my mind about Ohio here because I've had this stigma about Ohio for literally for 42 years now. My entire life, I've had this image of what the people in Ohio are like. But you, Jeff, Chad, LeBron James, everybody is just stinking amazing that I talk to. And you're describing all of Ohio they just accept you. They love you. Everybody's just warm and fuzzy. I'm just oh my gosh, Ohio is Oz. Let's just all go and walk down the yellow brick road. It sounds incredible, other than our horrible winters we have up here and spring that never seems to come. And it's just the people in Ohio are incredible.
For the most part, and maybe I'm in my own little naive world. Maybe I don't let myself associate with the other people enough, but I try not to associate myself with those kinds of people because it brings you down. It's contagious being around those negative people and everything else. And I've had negative things said to me in person, at a past job, but I found my way through it and got through it. But for the most part, I'm around some pretty amazing people. And that could also be because I generally just spend time with my family and like some of my closest friends. So, and my family's huge and amazing. So I grew up with, again, I'm going to say lucky and blessed with the family that I did.
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. You got a powerful story, and you're absolutely amazing. You know, your self-confidence, your optimism, your hope and humanity, like it resonates and it's infectious. And depending on when people are watching this right now, I don't even know what the date is or what. I think it's a Friday. It's
I
March
hope it's
something.
Friday.
We're on day 5 or 6 of the self-quarantine
Right.
pandemic thing that's going on. And in the midst of all of this, like, you are just making me smile and feel hopeful. Today was a day where I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't do another day of this. But just your energy is just, it's incredible. And
Well,
I'm super, super excited to see what you are able to do with teachers in schools all
mhm.
across Ohio and across the country,
Yes.
because this energy and this enthusiasm is so needed in schools, both for kids and for adults, because we
Yeah.
all get into this game where we forget to assume the good in people. We
Yeah.
forget to look past the label or whatever issue, and I'm using air
Right.
quotes if you can't see me, that
Yes.
people might present or portray to the world, and just look at the people.
Hmm.
And I love that that's what you're doing, because
Yeah.
it's the life you live. It's so
Mhm.
powerful.
Well,
So
thank you. And
good.
don't get me wrong. Sometimes I forget to see the good sometimes too. I'm absolutely nowhere perfect on that end of things, but I try. Like I think Tourette syndrome has taught me a lot more empathy. Like don't get me wrong, I can have a temper sometimes. My family listening to this is probably laughing because I said sometimes, but I try to let my Tourette syndrome, like even when I see other people like doing something that might be assumed as weird, I try to remind myself, like pull myself back and be like, all right, well, like you look weird sometimes too when you do things in public. So just they might have something going on. Like I try to remind myself of that. Like they might have other problems happening. And I'm not always perfect at it, especially on bad days, but I do try really hard to remind myself of that a lot.
It's an effort. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. I mean, it's not, it's effort for all of us to assume the
Mhm.
good. It's easy for me to say, it's a great platitude, but it
Right.
does take effort. It
Yes.
really does. It does. So that's cool. So Brittany, I'm going to set you up for this now. So we're
Okay.
at that moment,
Okay.
and this happens in every single podcast where I ask people to provide us with that mic drop moment. So, I mean, you provided a lot of truth, a lot of wisdom, a lot of just amazing nuggets that make me smile. I mean, when we first connected, I guarantee I wasn't smiling like this nonstop. My cheeks are going to hurt, but I feel so good and fuzzy inside right now. It's crazy. But I gave everybody that opportunity to give us that mic drop moment, because a lot of people listen to this on their way to work or when they're working out, and this is their opportunity just to focus in right now.
Hmm.
Know that this is the thing. Did I drag it
Okay.
out long enough for you to be able to come up and think of it?
I think so.
Okay.
I think I know
So,
what I want to say.
so this is
Um,
your opportunity, Brittany. Give us that mic drop moment.
all right. So my biggest thing that I always want to make sure people know, or my biggest thing that I always advocate for, is vulnerability and honesty in the
Mm.
imperfections and everything else about us. When I talk to people with Tourette syndrome, my biggest thing is like just being open with yourself. Like even if it's just one person today, tell them about something that you're going through. Tell them about your Tourette syndrome. Tell them about your anxiety. I promise it's so more uplifting and freeing than it seems in your mind. It can be a scary place to be like, nobody knows this thing about me. How are they going to react? So start with somebody that you think will be good. Like start with somebody that you know this person's going to be accepting of it. So start with them, because that's that first, telling that first person and that going well is a huge like snowball effect.
Yes.
Being able to be yourself, like even when it's your body that you can't control, because it's a very uncomfortable feeling and nervous and embarrassing feeling sometimes, just knowing that I'm around people that know what it is, and it helps me self-accept as well, and it's going to do so much more for other people as well. Like tell one person today, or one person a week, one person a month, whatever small step you have to start with, just keep building off of that. And I promise, like your self-acceptance, like your inner monologue is going to start to change. Like it's not going to be nobody's going to like me because of this. It's going to be everybody's going to know this about me, so now I can be more myself around everybody. Like it's not going to just constantly be like, no, there's no way anybody's going to accept me. I'm going to be annoying. I'm going to be embarrassing, blah, blah, blah. If they know about it, I guarantee they start to forget. Like people tell me all the time, like I don't even, like I click my mouse a lot at work. People tell me they're like, I don't even hear it anymore. Like I'm so used to it. So I'm so free and I'm able to be myself literally everywhere I go. And that's only because I started being honest so long ago. And so a lot of people are starting later in life sometimes, but you'll still get there and it's still going to get you to that same spot. And maybe that was too long of a moment, but
No, it's good. It's, and I'm going to say this, and hopefully you know exactly what I'm saying, but coming out has so many different forms.
yes.
And sometimes you just have to come out and own who you really are, no
Mm-hmm.
matter what that is. And
Yes.
again, I'm a father of 4 kids, and I'm thinking about, I play hide and seek with my kids all the time. And sometimes I'll hide and I'll lay underneath the covers of the bed and I'll lay there so still. And I can hear them in the room and my heart just starts to pound. I'm getting so worried, like, are they going to find me? Are they going to find me? Are they going to find me? And I get so anxious and I start sweating. Literally, it's like I've got a 9-year-old that's trying to find me, but I just get so nervous that they're going to find me.
Right.
And as soon as they do, I just, I can breathe and I can come out of the covers again. But that's how it feels at times.
Yes.
Like when people are looking at you and judging, you're like, oh, I just got to hide. I got to hide. I don't want people to see the real me. And you fight it so much, but there's something freeing of just coming out and being like, yeah, this is me. You got me. Yep. You found me. I'm it. Yep. Right. And then you just go, that's good. That's good. That was a good moment, Britney. Well played. Well played. So people are going to be listening to this. They're going to like, wow, I got to find out more about this girl. How can they connect with you?
Well, there's a lot of different ways. I'm on all of the social media platforms. They can find me on Facebook. I have a page for my Tourette's and like I put some of my speaking stuff on there as well. Yeah. It's facebook.com/one tick at a time. And that's TIC for tick. You can find me by _ Britney Wolf on Instagram. Instagram's kind of like my platform for everything. It's my personal Tourette's, everything. That's where you're going to find all my lovey-dovey, mushy stuff about my husband most of the time as well. Twitter is also one tick at a time. So Twitter/one tick at a time. Not super good at Twitter. So it's one of my less used ones, but I'm trying to learn. There's definitely a learning curve with it, and I'm still trying to learn that.
Awesome. And I'll have all those little links and everything below the show notes, whether you're watching this on YouTube or listening to the podcast. And reach out to Britney because she is amazing. And again, she's the it girl right now. So I'm glad that I can say, ooh, I knew her when. And I'm going to be connecting with you later on this year for sure. We're going to be meeting face to face, and I cannot wait. I cannot wait.
One thing I did forget too, though. Sorry. Also, obviously, the Teach Better Speakers Network. Yes. You can find me on there if you ever want me to come and talk or anything. They'll get that message to me and get me all set up to come and speak anywhere, businesses, schools, classrooms. I would love to come and talk to kids about it as well. Very good. So all that, I wanted to make sure I threw that in there.
Absolutely. You got it. That's cool. Absolutely. So world, let me introduce you to Britney Wolf if you didn't know her already. And again, connect with her. She's got an awesome story to tell. Britney, thank you so much for giving up so much of your time, inspiring me personally, and just sharing your story with so many others. Appreciate it.
Not a problem at all. Thank you so much for having me. It was awesome to get to talk to you and share my story on yet another platform. So
very cool.